First of all, I just want to say thank you to you guys who keep sponsoring me. It's really nice to have people who kind of just believe in what you're talking about, I suppose, what you're doing. So anyway, what I wanted to talk to you about was living beyond the temple, because that's what I'm working with at the moment. I guess you could say that's my life's challenge at the moment, is to live beyond the temple. Yeah, so living beyond the temple means no gurus. It means no, certainly no naive engagement with a guru. I think that you can go to a guru for a period of time and, just be very careful about, look for cult signs and walk away if you see them. So living beyond the temple, what does that mean? It means different things to different people, of course. But when your temple has failed you, when you've diligently gone to the temple for 20, 30, even maybe 40 years, or maybe just as few as 5 or 10, that you went to the temple with a sense of respect and appreciation. And that just gets kind of ripped off, that open, trusting nature of people is being abused. You're using people at the deepest level because they're so vulnerable when they give themselves over to the guru-student relationship in the traditional Asian fashion. I think a healthy way to see it is that gurus have their place, of course. We have things to learn from all sorts of people. But there's this tendency for us to think, and for gurus to foster the idea, that you have one guru and you stick with him. Now, I think you can do that for a period of years, while you train in that particular tradition. You can stay with a guru in a tradition for however long it takes you to basically master the techniques. Once you know how to meditate and you know how to look at the world a different way, shall we say. So what we have to not fall for is this idea that there's one guru and that we choose one path, and that's until we die. And actually that's not the way it should be, because in one lifetime we can follow many paths, and we can do them one after another. Our lives are long enough. So we can follow gurus for a period of time and know that part of that journey of being that guru's student, just know that that's only for part of your life. It's not something that you're going to stick with forever, because you only need to learn the system and the practices. And once you've got that understanding, well, you don't need to stick in the religion anymore. So living beyond the temple is recognizing that there's a difference between the teachings and the religious structures that surround it and enable it to be delivered. And you recognize the limitations of any guru-centered model. So someone who's living beyond the temple steps outside of the religious structures. And their challenge is to be their own guru, be an island unto themselves, as the Buddha says. You have to look to yourself. I mean, that's where all Buddhism leads. It leads you back to your inner self. That's the whole point of Buddhism. So at a certain point, following a guru is not doing that. It's following somebody else. I think that's a good place for stagnation. And so it's kind of like you have to graduate from guru school. We don't have to. But just in terms of one's spiritual growth over a lifetime, I can see that it does kind of take like the secondary school level of spiritual education, I mean, to do a Buddhist education in any of the different Buddhist traditions. It's a great thing to do. It arms you with wonderful skills for dealing with your mind. And like everything else, you need to be aware of the shortcomings, or shall we say the areas that meditation doesn't fix, like trauma that's stored in the body, for instance. So someone who's living beyond the temple might study some tradition for as long as they need to get a handle on what's entailed. And they don't have to do all of these different things to the max, but I think it's good to choose one thing at some point in your life and really study it for a while. But the challenge is to know when it's time to graduate. To know when it's time to go, okay, well, I don't need to see this guy anymore. I don't even need to listen to his teachings or anything. In a way, having Sogyal's true nature revealed to me in such a shocking way, it allowed me to kind of make an immediate decision that meant that I just no longer had that. And it was fine, because for me, it really was just a continuation of the practice I was doing. The practice I was doing was not sitting meditation, wasn't counting mantras. I was just constantly trying to remember to turn my mind in and look at the world from the inside out. So knowing when it's time to say, okay, I've learned everything that I can learn from this particular tradition, and I think I understand the belief system and the practices, and I think I've learned as much as I need to or want to or whatever with this particular tradition. So it's time to leave. And I think we have to be really honest with ourselves too, and know when did we stay long enough to be able to say, yeah, I really did get quite a good handle on that. So, that's the challenge. It's living beyond the temple in every moment. And it's not just beyond the religious structures or seeing beyond the religious structures. If you take the idea of beyond the temple far enough, then everything's the temple. And you see beyond that. It's a great way to live, but it's a constant challenge. So when you're in a religion, there are certain structures that actually help you to, live a spiritual life, shall we say. That's why they're so popular. It stops you having to think for yourself how you're going to structure your life in such a way that you have some time to engage with the spiritual dimension. But Buddhism is designed to bring us to our own guru. And in the end, I think, that's where our lives are leading. The challenge is easier now that I don't have those religious structures. After you come out of a guru-centered spiritual life to a Maya and a guru-centered spiritual life, there's a transition. So it takes a while to come out of being told what to do or how to organise your life or how to organise your meditation practice, etc., by somebody else, to a place where you can do that organisation for yourself if you need organisation. What I'm working on is having the discipline to keep on turning my mind in, basically, over and over again. But that's a Dzogchen structure, and it might not suit somebody else. Buddhism left us with a lot of structures that we could use, some really simple. If you want to set your motivation at the beginning of the day and check how you did at the end of the day, that's a basic Buddhist structure. One of the difficult things about following only your inner guru is that it's very easy to mistake the inner guru for that reactive, narrow-minded, defensive self. So before you can do this, you need to know the difference. So living beyond the temple is a constant challenge. And it comes down to moments like this where you're just sitting somewhere and you just look out at the world and tune into awareness, pure awareness. You just have to find pure awareness, and once you've found it, you practice tuning into it. So I think that's living beyond the temple at its most fundamental. Well, living beyond the temple is much more fun than living in the temple, I can assure you. Okay, so that's it. I'm sick of holding this selfie stick. All right, catch you next time. Ciao.